we had just been overextending the vine of our lives and not growing any fruit anymore.
Like, I want to be like the most generous person or the happiest person somebody knows, not the most busy. I mean, there's no honor in that. Well, hey friends, welcome back to the podcast today. I've got a special treat for you guys today. On the Jennifer Allwood Show, we don't have guests a whole lot. I have to really make sure that when I bring on a guest that they're a good fit for you guys. I want to make sure that there's somebody I think that you will both love and learn from. And Stephen and Chelsey Diaz, they fit that bill. So I know Stephen and Chelsey from a mastermind that I am in, and they have a really incredible story. They're a young but powerful couple. They started out in the wedding photography industry. And several years ago, they realized, this is not going to work for us long-term. And they had to figure out a way to leverage their time and still increase their income. And so they started randomly selling a few things on Amazon. And before they knew it, they are the leading people to teach others online how to sell a product on Amazon. They still have hundreds of products they sell, and they coach women on how they can sell on Amazon too. So this was a great conversation. We talk about operating your business from a place of rest. We talk about how do you set up a dream week for your business. We just had so many great conversations. I think you're going to absolutely love it. So without further ado, I will give you our conversation. All right. Well, hey, Stephen. Hey, Chelsey. I'm so glad to have you guys here.
Hey.
We are so glad to be here. Thanks for having us.
You are so welcome. This is going to be fun. I don't have guests a whole lot on the Jennifer Allwood Show anymore. So the people that are listening, they will know that must be something really good if I'm having somebody come on. So thank you guys for being here. And I want to talk about kind of where you guys started, what you're doing today with Amazon. I know you've got little kiddos. And so thought we would talk kind of about several different things on one episode. But first, I wanted to start talking just about your background. Can you tell me, Chelsey, kind of give me the story of the photography and what you were doing and then what happened from there?
Yeah, Stephen and I got married super young and we jumped right into business together. We were in the wedding industry, wedding photographers and videographers. And I remember this black spiral staircase. So it was our very first home that we lived in. We'd walk up this black spiral staircase, and upstairs was
not elegant staircase.
Okay.
It was like a ladder, basically.
Yeah,
well, the first thing I'm thinking off the bat is you get married and you go into business right away together. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but our first year of marriage was a dumpster fire. And so I'm like, man, and you work together? Was that a good year? Or was
it was a really fast learning curve with a lot of friction.
Yes,
sure.
Definitely.
Gotcha. Okay, so tell me about the staircase.
Yeah, so we had our little office upstairs in this tiny little spiral staircase, and I just remember every single wedding season, and in the wedding world, you kind of have really high cash flow months where you're really busy all the time. And then you have a really low season. And every single year, I would just feel the weight of trying to bring in income. And I feel I had a very scarce mindset around that. And every single month in the winter time, while we were upstairs editing away in our spiral staircase office, I just had this scarcity and not sure of the future. And that really propelled Stephen to kind of look into all kinds of alternative revenue streams for us. And we kind of think of that time as the spaghetti years. We were throwing spaghetti up against the wall, seeing what would stick, trying all the things. And it really wasn't until Stephen landed upon this whole Amazon thing.
Okay. And so I know that you found out something about Amazon. At that point, you guys were working 80-hour weeks. Am I right? You were putting in the time. And, and I think that was also, if I understand correctly from your story, a really a burnt out season for you guys. Is that kind of where you were? Tell me about, being overextended and overtired. And is that overworking? Is that where you were at?
100%. Yeah. I mean, I think very similar to your story, right? You have this business that's going well, but then you kind of hit a ceiling on it, right? And so we had done that with weddings. We were doing 40 plus weddings a year. We're doing all the editing ourselves. We hadn't learned to outsource anything yet at that point. Friends stopped calling us. You're so busy. Every time I see people at church, oh, you must be so busy, And honestly, it was you work with the weekends and then you're recovering on Sunday and you're hitting it again on Monday. And so while we loved the legacy piece of weddings, we loved what we were creating. We love the creative aspect of things. You end up doing, probably 10% photography and creative and a ton of admin stuff. And so Yeah, that put us into really this kind of like, okay, there's got to be something more. Like now we kind of put a
Mhm.
term on it, which is we need more leverage. We need to be
Yeah.
able to put in time into something and have it really multiply for years to
Yes.
come.
Mm-hmm.
And really the aha moment was, I mean, like Chelsey said, we tried like every side hustle in the book. And the problem was like not that they all failed, it was that they all worked just a tiny bit, like
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
just like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
let's do a little photo booth on the side. And it was like, okay, it worked a tiny bit, but added more stress, added more time,
Yeah.
right? Oh, let's do Airbnb out of our spare room, added more stress, added more time.
Yes.
And so we were actually reading it's called Poverty, Riches, and Wealth, which was such a powerful book for us in that season, all
Mhm.
about abundant mindset around money. And it really talked, there's a line in the book that said, I was talking about vines, and it was like a vine overextended will just grow sticks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we read that, it just like hit us because it was like we had just been overextending the vine of our
Mm-hmm.
lives
Yeah.
and not growing any fruit anymore. Like it was just like
Yeah.
everything was just adding more time, adding more stress. And so we like really felt like God was calling us into a trimming season. That's what you got to do with the vines. You got to
Yeah.
trim them back
Yeah.
to the fruit so they grow fruit in the next season.
Mhm.
And so we looked at all the stuff we had going on, helping out at youth group, doing weddings, photo
Yes.
booths. Like we had probably like 7 things going on, and we trimmed basically all of them
Yeah.
except for the weddings because that was kind of like paying the bills and
Yes.
Amazon. And so we had this small brand on Amazon at the time. And the reason we left that one was because there's a little bit of fruit there and there looked like a lot of upside potential because we
Okay.
could grow that business without it really taking more of our time. It had the most leverage. We could add more products to that shop. Amazon's doing the shipping and handling. And for anyone who's like kind of new to the Amazon thing, we can go into the technicals of that. But where it really like we started to see the fruit happen was actually at a wedding. I think it was one of the hotter days in Chico, California,
Yes.
very sweaty wedding. And so
Yep.
you have pretty much as a wedding photographer, you have one time where you like kind of just take a breath, and that's like the reception, right? Everyone's getting their dinner, you get your plate, you go to the side, and you're kind of eating off your lap in the corner there. And
This
I
is stuff
remember
I wouldn't even have known this about your industry, but that totally makes
oh
sense.
yeah, you
Yeah.
want to hide because like you don't want
Yeah.
to like there
You're
was like
so
sit at the table
hungry.
with our guests and it's just like super
Yes.
awkward and then people want
Yeah.
photos. So you always go like kind of hide. And so we
Yes.
were hiding somewhere, eating our food and checked the Amazon app. We had Amazon rolling at the time. We're selling products on Amazon. And that day we had made more on Amazon than we had made at that wedding. And
That's
that was like
fascinating.
where it was like, whoa,
Yeah.
like this thing is working. And
Yeah.
like I remember
Yeah.
you.
I kind of talked about early on, like with the spiral staircase and every single winter, just feeling like this weightiness like on my shoulders. Like I literally felt this weight of like, how do we ever start a family? How do we ever be able to do extra things? We're
Yeah.
so tied to this. And it was like that light bulb aha epiphany moment for me, looking at our Amazon app and just feeling for once in a lifetime, like the weight lifting of like, wow, we finally, like everybody in the wedding industry says like, be picky about your clients. You can say no, but I really don't think most people are actually doing that. They're
Right.
just taking what is given to them.
Yes.
And we are, of course, we're doing that as well. And it literally was like the first time that we could actually say no. And it gave me the peace and the security that we had been like praying about and dreaming about. And that feeling like that I experienced is why we're doing what we're doing today, because that feeling like I want everyone to be able to experience if they're like looking for something, and just knowing that you don't have to like have that scarcity mindset that we did for so long.
Well, it gave you some margin. And
Mhm.
I think we fail sometimes to recognize how good margin feels and how important it is just to have some wiggle room. And our stories are kind of similar because I own my painting company and I had gotten to, I loved it and I was good at it. My guess is you guys were good at photography and, did it for 17 years, but I knew that I was at a place where I'd capped my income. And also
Mhm.
I can remember my friend Ashley, I ran into her at church one day and she said, gosh, you're like the busiest person I know. And
Mhm.
as soon as she said that, like something in me just died a little because I thought that isn't like, I want to be like the most generous person or the happiest person somebody knows, not the most busy. I mean, there's no honor in that. And I can just
Mhm.
remember thinking to myself, like, there has to be a better way because I'm busting my butt over here with this painting company. And then I look at the bank account and I'm like, why are those two things, not lining up? And
Mhm.
when I shifted online, this is why I teach women to shift online, exactly, which is what you guys do. The first weekend that I sold like painting DIY videos, like online links, I made
Mhm.
$5,200. And I cried my eyes out because I thought, you know how hard I would have had to have worked this week out in the field, away from the
Mhm.
family, in somebody's house who may or may not have been, nice to us or whatever, to make that same kind of money. And so it gave us so much more margin. And we also, like you just saw, wow, we can scale this thing. Like I can
Mhm.
make something once and sell it to as many people, it's no more work for me. So I love that you figured that out on Amazon. So what were you first selling? Like, what were your first products?
Yeah, very random. So,
Okay.
one of the side hustles, of the many,
Mhm.
Chelsey got me this little wooden toy for Christmas. I'm
Okay.
kind of like into like mastery. And so like I get like really into things and I
Okay.
just want to like know all about it.
Yeah.
And so I got into this thing called a kendama, which is like a Japanese yo-yo. It's like have you ever seen it's like three cups and a ball and you try to catch the ball on the cups?
No, but I know I would be absolutely horrible at it. Okay.
So she got me one for Christmas,
Yeah.
and as entrepreneurs do, like I liked it, but I was like, I should start a kendama business. And
Yes.
so again, on top of all the other things we're doing. So I basically, at the time, we were actually doing on the side of weddings, we were also shooting Kickstarter videos, like for companies that are creating physical products and like launching these cool inventions.
Mhm.
And I don't know, we just always had this like, how do people make products? Like, how do they take an idea and make it like a physical reality? And
Yeah.
so that was kind of like the kendama thing idea plus this Kickstarter thing. It was kind of like, we're going to figure this out this year. And the kendama world was like a very gentle
Yeah.
niche to get to because like it's such a small kind of
Yeah.
like cult following niche. Whereas like if there's a new brand, it's like exciting,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're like, we're gonna figure this out. We're gonna figure out how to make kendamas or these little skill toys and sell them online. And really it was, I mean, we were doing it kind of the hard way. We did figure out how to manufacture things and get it shipped to us, but we were packing and shipping stuff at the house. And
Yes.
so throwing the product on Amazon was honestly kind of a whim because I was like, oh, Amazon has this thing called fulfillment by Amazon or FBA. And so
Yeah.
any business owner, actually like 60% of the businesses or products you buy on Amazon are actually from small businesses now, because Amazon's basically opened it up like a marketplace. Anyone can go list their products on there. And so I know Amazon gets this hate sometimes, like this big
I
corporate
know.
giant,
I'm
which
literally writing myself a note to ask you about this because I do want to ask you about that. Yeah.
yeah, so we have a hat that has the Amazon logo and says shop small, and it really like people
Yeah.
are so confused by it. But
Yes.
they've Amazon's kind of done this thing where they've created an ecosystem. And so I read about it and I was like, oh, like I could like partner with this $1 billion company, have them do my shipping for me. And at the time, like Chelsea's kind of like keeping the wedding business afloat.
Okay.
And I'm like in the, after work,
Trenches.
just like
Yeah.
packing and shipping orders.
Yes.
And so we shipped a small product off to Amazon. And this was when fidget spinners kind of started taking off. So
Oh
this
my
was
gosh. My kids
2017.
had 100 of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, so we
All
were
shapes.
kind of like not a fidget spinner, but we were close to fidget spinner. It was a fidgety toy.
Yeah.
So I just started putting those keywords in there. And I mean, honestly, it's the grace of God, like miracle that this thing, I mean, these little toys started selling like, $500 a day on Amazon. And I'm seeing them ship all over the world and we're not packing a single box ourselves. And so that was like, honestly, I would feel like it was a miracle that happened, but that was where we caught the bug of like, okay, we need to figure this out. And because that product was totally kind of an accident that it worked. But we kind of reverse engineered that to figure out what we now call the Rainmaker method, which is how we identify what to sell on Amazon, get it made, get it shipped to Amazon, and then put it on autopilot.
Okay. That is fascinating because there's been times like, friends and I will sit around and we'll be like, I wish I would have invented blah, blah, blah. Or like the guy that invented the, what do you call those, like stress balls? Like what a silly thing to invent. It's just a round ball with rice in it. And yet, and so is what you're saying that you don't have to necessarily invent a new product. You can take a product that is somebody else is already selling and you can get that somehow on Amazon. Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. Yeah. We actually kind of discourage people for their first product to try to invent something because I mean, like Apple Computer came out with like the desktop computer for your home, right? And they had to do so much marketing to like, because people didn't even know what they needed a computer for at those times. In the first Apple commercials, they showed it in the kitchen, like save your recipes on here because they didn't know really like why people would want it. And so you don't want to be the first person to have to like invent something and market it. I mean, eventually you can build a skill set and go, okay, yeah, I'm going to take a risk on those things.
Mhm.
But what we do, we actually use software. It's getting a little nerdy, but I know your audience is pretty technical.
We will have women who are so interested in this. Go for it.
Yeah. So we use a software that actually helps us kind of actually, let me give you an analogy if that's okay. So
Yes.
Amazon, imagine like the world's largest grocery store, you know, or department store. That's Amazon. Over all 50% of online sales happen on Amazon. It's just like massive, you know.
Wow.
And so imagine aisles in the grocery store, and each aisle has like you know, at the top of the aisle, it shows you what's in the aisle. On Amazon, those are search terms. You go to Amazon, you search for, you know, fear is not the boss of you, right? You search a very specific thing, and that's the aisle that pops up is the landing. It's like the front page of Amazon for that search term. And so what we do is we have software that helps us figure out what aisles are a lot of people searching for, but there's just not great products on the shelf. So people are walking down the aisle, and the software will show us 10,000 people are searching for baby helmets, you know, every single month. But on the shelves, a bunch of the products have 3 stars, 4 stars, like they need improvement. And so we find existing demand on Amazon, and then we literally just manufacture products for those people. So we look at all the negative reviews, we look at what they want, we look at what they don't like, and we take that to a manufacturer that can make the product. And then we ship it off to Amazon, and boom, you know, Amazon's now shipping and selling it to our people.
This is fascinating. So you guys are training mostly women right now on how to get their stuff for sale on Amazon, number one, but you are also still selling your own products on Amazon?
Yeah. So we have over 200 products on Amazon.
Really?
And at the beginning, it was very random. You know, it still is kind of random. It was just
like give me some of the things you're selling.
For a while, we were selling shirt stays, which was another just very random. I mean, you want to think lightweight because Amazon is like all about fees and like how much storage. So shirt stays are like reverse suspenders that keep your shirt tucked in. As a guy, like you're reaching up really high and your shirt gets all untucked. So they're like, they connect to your shirt and go down and, you know, keep it tucked in.
Okay, this is wild. That's wild. And so my guess is you've made a ton of money off of selling shirt stays.
We've made good money on shirt stays. At the beginning, we were sourcing them. So getting a manufacturer for about $1. You pay, you know, Amazon $5 to $6 in fees and then selling it for $15. Our next product after that was letterboards. That was like a big trend for a while.
I bought a letterboard.
We retired that one once it, you know, showed up in Walmart for $10. But at the beginning, we were selling those for $30, $40 on Amazon. And we innovated on it by adding a chalkboard to the back. And no one was doing that at the time.
Super cool.
Yeah. And so we've iterated. Now we have baby products. We have some sports brands. And so it is very random, but it's all based on data. That's like the most important thing is we did try to invent a product one time, and it did not go great because, like, you know, no one wanted this thing that we just made up. So we always now go off the data of like, what are people already searching for?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. So is, just out of curiosity, this just popped in my brain, is Walmart trying to compete with Amazon right now? Because this weekend, well, first of all, what I've noticed is so many online influencers on Instagram, like women my age, are showing outfit after outfit after outfit from Walmart. So Walmart obviously is paying a ton for sponsored content right now. And so then because of course I'm a sucker for a good, you know, link. So I go look at an outfit on Walmart this week and I notice, and it's probably been there for a while, but it says like, this is from such and such business. And I'm like, wait a second, what? And my friend Samantha, we were in Sedona last week, and she's like, oh, they've been doing that for a while. And I'm like, what? She's like, I think they're trying to compete with Amazon. Is that accurate?
Yeah, Walmart is very much modeling after Amazon, where pretty much anyone can go and list something on Walmart.com now, just like Amazon. It's a little bit harder to get into.
Yeah.
And TikTok is also taking a swing at it lately. So they are opening up this thing where you can like buy products on TikTok. But I think if you think of like Amazon is like the river, you know, like Etsy, Walmart, they're like little creeks right now. So Amazon is just such a bigger, you know, traffic source. So we mainly focus on that. And then we help people expand off and kind of diversify by getting on some of the other platforms. But mainly you're going to have most of your sales through Amazon.
Well, and I'm glad too that you talked about how many of the Amazon accounts are small businesses, because we were at our house in Florida. It's been a couple of years ago, and I was shopping in, you know, just some random boutique, and they had a sign up: please don't buy from Amazon, please buy small. And I took a picture of it. I actually put it on Facebook because I was like, I don't think people realize how many small business owners are on Amazon. So, and hopefully people are kind of starting to figure that out. But so where does like, if we have a woman that's listening right now, and she's like, well, I want to sell something on Amazon. Like, where do you even start? What does that look like?
Yeah, good question. If I'm taking more of the technical Amazon questions, because I'm the nerd in the relationship.
That's okay.
Chelsey just makes our products look beautiful. Like I'm just
Yeah.
like the data and I'm like the numbers.
Yes.
And she's like,
He's leaning into his
yeah,
strength.
she's
Yeah.
like,
Every
you need to
business
make
needs
this look
both.
better. So it's a good combo. So if you have like a spouse and one's more creative and one's more the nerd, that's kind of what you need. But yeah, I mean, we have a challenge we take people through where it's just a 7-day process.
I'd love for
The
you to tell
Rainmaker,
people where that's at. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, the rainmakerchallenge.com. That's really what I'd recommend because Amazon isn't for everyone. And so the challenge is a great way to find out, is it a good fit for me? And we show the software, we show how to connect with manufacturers. We show a lot of the process. So you kind of can like see before you go buy like an expensive Amazon training program, you can go see like, is this going to work for my family? You know, because that's the biggest thing. Like at the end of our lives, we're not going to look back and be like, well, I sold 100,000 units on Amazon. We're going to look at like, did it create time freedom for me, for my family? Did it create generational legacy? You know, like who did I become in the process? And so we want to really make sure we're working with people that are going to see that fruit, you know? And so the challenge is a great way to like at a low cost, see if you're interested in this thing, get the tools and take them and run or work with us further.
Okay. What was that URL again, Stephen?
That's the rainmakerchallenge.com.
Perfect. Do you know, before you and I were in a mastermind together, I knew about you guys because of your Facebook ads.
Well,
you have a really good Facebook ad strategy too, don't you?
We have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Chelsey, I feel like gets all the credit for that because she is, if I'm in the ads, they don't perform as well.
Right. It was Chelsey that was in the ads. Yeah. And it was, and this, I say this with like no disrespect but it was like not super structured and it was not like overtly professional. And were your kids even in it or am I imagining things? Because I was like, that is a great ad.
Yes, we try and get them. I mean, if they want to be or are cooperative or, so they are definitely in lots. They have been in the past. So
yeah, we're usually shooting on a cell phone, vertical. Chelsea's in the kitchen singing on a whisk or something like that. We have a lot of fun with it.
Glad that like content and ads can now be more relaxed. Like they used to have to be 4 or 5 years ago, so polished and your Instagram feed had to be, professional. And now I'm just glad that it's so much easier to get things out into the world. So, okay. So I know most of your audience and your clients are moms and women. And so of course, there's going to be challenges when they first open up like an Amazon store. And so is that something that you teach about also in your training? Is there lots of things in the beginning that are going to be problematic or you need to watch for, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, Amazon like is always changing and doing things differently. So I think more than anything, like having a community of people, like sometimes issues or things that people are having, like they might like go post in a group and they're like, oh, like I went through that this last week, like here's what to avoid. So we're always trying to stay like up with things. But I think too, like just being a community, it's like having like your mastermind, like knowing like the stages of what is coming down the pipeline is so helpful. Like there's people that are more advanced and we have like coaches and, then there's brand new beginners that are all learning together. And so I think like just community in general, regardless of what business you are in, is so important.
Yeah.
So helpful.
One thing we do a lot of training on is mindset. And because it is one of those things we got to shift from, we call it the I can't mindset to the how can I mindset. So a lot of times our default is just like, oh, I can't, I'm stuck. And so even one of the ways we do this with our team, but also, so any business owners, you totally steal this because we got this from another friend of ours in a mastermind, but we train on what we call the 1-3-1, which is like never bring a problem, basically one problem without 3 solutions and 1 recommendation, so especially with a team culture or like a community, it's like, here's the problem I'm encountering. Here's 3 potential solutions. Here's the one that I'm thinking, it's a different frame of mind instead of like, help, I'm stuck. And then there's like no context, of like what you've done or anything like that. So we really try to empower people to not just like tap into the community for help, but like learn to be resourceful themselves.
Yes.
We have so many resources available, but really, I think sometimes our default is just like, I'm stuck, and then I quit, so we don't want people to quit because we know what's on the other side of them keeping going. So we do a lot of that mindset work to get them through those stuck points.
Do you think some people are just born with like, how can we make this happen? Because I feel like that's totally my personality, but but my husband is wired in a much different way, and not that either one's good or bad, but he's more wired towards seeing like potential pitfalls, and all I see is like rainbows and unicorns. And so, do you think that some of that's just how we're born?
I think it is. Steve and I are the opposite of you and your husband. So I'm more like, and I have had to train myself to not go to the negative. I call it the negative what ifs, because that, especially early entrepreneurship, I was that way every single wedding season. I was like, our business is going to fail. The leads are going to dry up. I would
We're going under.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, we would be booked out every summer. So I think that I've had to train myself about like calming my nervous system and saying like, you're safe. It's okay. And then Steven is definitely like rainbows and butterflies. Like, we are going to make this happen, like total optimist. And I'm so grateful for it. So I do think that there is like some of it. I think some of my things that I've had to overcome were from my childhood, that, just like the belief around what my parents thought about entrepreneurship or money, or just around fear. So I'm like, now I feel like closer to Steven in the way that he's thinking, but it took time to get there.
And I've learned a lot from Chelsey, because sometimes I need a little bit of reality 100%. Too. So I think there's just being together is really good, because we've helped each other strengthen those things.
Iron sharpens iron, for sure. Yes. So, okay, how many kiddos do you guys have right now? 2? Is that right?
We have 2.
Yeah.
All right. What are their ages?
Kaizen will be 4 in 2 months, so he's 3, and then Oliver is 1.5 years.
Okay, so they're close. You are in the thick of it.
Yes, they are.
Notice how she laughs. Yes. So our boys are 22 months apart.
I genuinely think that.
You what?
I said they're so cute.
They are so cute, but you're still in the thick of it. I was telling a young mom the other day, like, you don't even know how exhausted you guys are right now, and you won't until you're on the other side of it, and you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, did we just raise those kids? It's wild, because when you're in it, like, you don't realize how busy and probably tired and how much effort is going into that. So I know we have lots of young moms that are here listening to the podcast. So how are you guys balancing young kids, and then you're both selling on Amazon and teaching people Amazon? And for those of you who aren't familiar with Steven and Chelsey, like, they have a really big, very profitable, big business. So you guys are not doing like a small thing, like, you've got a big business going. So how are you guys balancing all of that?
I think the number one thing that we have implemented since having our second son is this weekly meeting. We call it our family meeting, and it happens on Sundays in the afternoon when the boys are napping. And it's based off of a structure that we use in our business with our teams called like the L10 structure. And I think Steven could explain more about that. But we literally come together once a week, and we just kind of look at our calendar for the next 10 days out. And it has everything to do with business things, personal things, childcare things. And it's really this one time a week where we're really, really checking in and diving deep into both of our calendars and having discussion around like, where do you need support? And have you checked in on like the electrician that we're supposed to be hiring? And it's just kind of that one place to have more in-depth conversation, because this decision to have this meeting came out of like a painful place where I think I was scrolling on social media one night, and I was supposed to be going to bed, and it was late at night, and I'm getting ready for bed, and I come downstairs, and I like looked at Steven. I'm like, I feel like everybody like is just one like notification away from like needing my attention. And I was just like, it was that something has to shift, because I was coming to Steven like almost every single night with, this thing needs to be done, and have you talked about this? And this really allowed us to have one meeting throughout the week and to be on the same page moving forward. So for me, that would be like my like advice. And I was telling a friend, a young mom, this week, I was like, have you thought about doing this structured? Because it is literally like, I don't like to over exaggerate things, but it has literally changed my life when I say like having this meeting place. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a whole podcast. I think it's episode 99 on our show that breaks down the whole meeting structure and like, you know, so if anyone wants to dig into that, but the other thing we do is we have themes to days. So that is something we've learned. You know, there's science based on this called switching cost, where it's like a lot of times when you feel really tired at night, especially for young parents, it's not because you did a lot, it's because you switched a lot between kind of like how your brain is functioning. So if you're like doing creative TikToks and then you're writing copy and then you're answering like an intense email and then you're like signing a contract, it's like you're switching so much that kind of like brain, I don't know, modality. And so we have really themed our days. So at the time we're recording, this is Tuesday. This is all we do all day is just like talk, you know? And so, but on Wednesdays is more of an open day where it's just like more deep work and more future stuff. And we have certain days for like meetings and things like that. So, and even making sure, I mean, Chelsey really identified like, what is our dream week? And so on our weekly meeting, we're also like, how can we make sure this is a dream week? Like, I want to work out this many times. I want to see a friend. Like, how are we making sure we're scheduling in life and then letting business fill in the cracks? Because I think when you own your own business, you forget that like you set your own hours. And so
you can do what you want. Isn't it funny how we sometimes try so hard to get out of the bondage that we feel like a 9-to-5 is by being an entrepreneur. And then we put ourselves back into bondage thinking we have to do a certain thing. Every once in a while, I think to myself, because this one I've been coaching for 10 years and I'll joke with my team because my team always like starts the coaching call for me and there's a countdown and there's music. And I always tell my team, like, what would you do if I just decided not to show up today? Like I've never actually done that, but sometimes I'm like, but I think I actually could. Like I could just decide, you know what, I'm not doing it today, but I almost forget that like I still have a say in my day. You know what I mean? I wanted to ask you, since I know you guys are so much more organized than I am, like how do you keep your calendar? Because this is how we keep my calendar. We have Google Calendar. And then do you guys know the app Cozy? Do you guys use the app Cozy on your phones?
But I want to know.
Well, Cozy is like, so this is like our family app for meetings and, you know, eye doctor appointment and, you know, golf at this time or whatever. And so Cozy's and it also has like a grocery list inside of it. So that's where that you can all put stuff in. So we've got Google and then we have Cozy that's like for the family stuff. And then I use like the 1989 you know, hard calendar, which my team refers to lovingly as my dinosaur calendar. So I have 3 calendars, and to get those to like, you know, all be consistent is really challenging. Do you guys have any thoughts around that? What are you doing that's working?
Yeah, it's good to have, like, I think our one source of truth is probably our shared calendar. So we do use Google, but we share. So like I have my own, she has her own.
Yep.
Do we have one outside of that? I guess we have like a work and a personal, and they're kind of color coded. So I can look and know what Chelsey's doing in the day. She can look and see what I'm doing in the day. But that meeting and why we look 10 days out is so we can be proactive, not reactive, and be like, oh, I see there's an overlap here and someone needs to pick up Kai from school and like, okay, what do we do here? You know, and we have a nanny and a house manager that helps us around with the boys and in the house and things like that as well. And so we're also like, how can we schedule that? Because there are certain days where we are both needed for work, and there's certain days where it's like just I'm there and Chelsey's off, or vice versa. So
Would you ever sit and think like where you guys would be if you were still doing photography?
Yes. Every Saturday, actually. Yeah, pretty much every Saturday.
How long did it take you to like shut that down after you started doing some things on Amazon? Was it a minute?
Yeah, because weddings people book out so far in advance, and then COVID. So COVID postponed all the weddings for another year. So we were like pretty much going to be done. And then I think we shot our last wedding in 2021.
Yeah. And that was like they rescheduled like 3 or 4 different times. So
but we were kind of retired mentally a couple of years before that, but we wanted to finish strong. But every Saturday we're just so thankful, because when we started weddings, we didn't have kids, you know, and I feel like Saturdays just have such a special, I don't know, there's something magical about Saturdays. And so we love every Saturday just going to farmer's market, going to coffee, having a slow day. And we we just cherish it because it's like, man, we would have been driving 3 hours at some
Right.
wedding,
Right. Yeah.
and we loved what we did, but it's just like there was a higher calling, I feel like, for us that
Yeah.
still involves family legacy. And it's not just our family, it's many families
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. I know you
Mhm.
guys talk, this is a good lead into this question about working from like a place of rest
Mhm.
and about like hustle traps. Do you guys want to speak to that real quick as we're finishing up here?
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, I feel like if people are following you, they're not falling into hustle traps because I know you carry that piece as well. But that's, I think, what we were falling into with the wedding thing was like, oh, hustle culture. You know, there's a
Yes.
lot of people preaching that message. And I don't know. I mean, honestly, I feel like some of the biggest jumps we've made in our business, even this like family meeting, it came from taking time off. Like
Mhm.
we took 2 months off of the business while the business still ran.
Yeah.
We had our
You
second
took,
son.
wait a second, 2 months off?
Two
Mhm.
months. Chelsey
Yeah.
took 2 months. I got a month in and I kind of went a little crazy. I had to just do some work, but that's
Okay.
just my
And
personal.
so you're still bringing in money from your
Mhm.
Amazon stores during that time. So it's not like the dollar shut down, but
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
Yeah.
literally were able to walk away for 2 months. Like that's hashtag goals.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
That's amazing.
that's been kind of how we've tried to engineer all the businesses where it's like this thing can run without us and not just run, but it can keep growing.
Mhm.
And in those spaces, like when you take time off, you go on a trip, you do a retreat, like that's when the gold happens. You're like, oh, there's another idea or something like that. So we have really learned to protect rest, protect family time, schedule that in
Yeah.
because we know that's sometimes the highest business ROI. You know, it's like actually just spending time with the family or actually just
Yeah.
cultivating the marriage or taking the trip.
Yeah. And I will say to that, like we do have like very full busy calendars. Like at certain, like there are certain months where it's like it's launch month and I know that I'm working more and it's requiring more of our time and attention. And so when we say like work from a place of rest, it's like we're not being lazy. We're
Right.
just being super intentional. And even if we have a big business launch, like we just did a live challenge a couple months ago, which is super intense on our whole team. And like what we do during that time is just like prioritizing, like when we are done with work, we're going to be done and we're going to be fully present with the boys. Or like I remember one time being asked by like a friend, hey, will you help us with this church event, like in the midst of our like challenge? And we ended up saying yes to it because we felt like that was actually what we needed to like rest and turn off like the business mode. So I think it's just understanding what is life giving to you in the midst of like the busyness and the day to day and raising young kids and a successful business. It's like what brings you joy and brings you life that's going to fill your cup, and being able to like step away from work and not be thinking about it. Because I think a lot of people, you know, entrepreneurship, you think about it a lot because you love it and you're passionate about it, but how can you like really turn it off so that when you're with your family or at the park with your kids, which I do a lot of, like I'm not thinking about like the Slack message, like I'm letting my mind rest, and that I feel like is working
Yeah.
from a place of rest.
I have one theory on this. I'll throw out to you, Jennifer, because you think a lot about money and all this stuff. I feel like time functions a lot like money. And I feel like this is the way God designed it. We use a lot of money terms for time, invest my time, spend my time. There's all these like money terms around it.
That's
And so I've found with money, when you put it in the right things, when you give, when you're generous, when you let it flow through you, it comes to you. I feel like time is a very similar thing. And I mean, we even see Jesus doing this a lot. He has like the busiest day ever. And then he's up early in the garden, like praying, you know what I mean? Like I've found if like, I don't know, you should just have your audience experiment with this. If you feel like you have a really busy day and like the temptation is to like, oh, I should probably, you know, stay up late and then like, wake up for this. I feel like doing something intentionally, like having an extra time where you're just like, sowing time into something that's really life-giving, it feels like it almost multiplies the time. And scarcity or poverty mindset says you don't have the time. And we really went through this season of like breaking poverty mindset when it comes to money off our life. But then it was like the next one was poverty mindset with time and stopping saying I don't have the time and starting to say like, wow, I can invest time and actually see it multiply, which is a pretty wild thing to experience.
This is such a great way to end this conversation. I one time heard a guy, he was at Pedro Adeo's 100X conference years ago, and he was talking about how God can bend time.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that talk? And I was bend time. And so basically that's what he was talking about. Like when we really spend time focusing on the things that we really need to, it's interesting how much more time comes available to us in other areas, or how much more we can get done in a shorter amount of time. And God's able to like kind of just bend time. And I'm like, that is a really weird concept. Now I'm going to have to really ponder the correlation between the money and the time things. That's good. That's good. You should totally write a book on that. Put it on Amazon.
All right, deal.
Awesome. All right. Well, it has been so great having you guys here. I know we're going to have women that are listening that are like, I want to get on their challenge. So I want you to remind them of that URL. And then where could they find you on the internet? And is it under Rainmakers everywhere?
Yeah. Search the Rainmaker Family. Rainmakerfamily.com is like our main site. You can find us on Instagram. We have a podcast, The Rainmaker Family Show. Episode, I think 99 is all about the family meeting. If anyone wants to go do that.
Yay, fabulous.
And we had Jennifer on the show, so definitely check that one out. It's an epic episode. And then the challenge, if you do want to go down the Amazon rabbit hole, see if it's for you, therainmakerchallenge.com.
Okay, that's fabulous. Bless you guys. I'm excited for everything God has in store for you. So thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Bless you.